Hey friends, this is Steve Guttenberg. I am the audiophiliac, and I'm here with Andrew Jones from ELAC, and he's showing me his brand new creation, the ELAC debut B6.2. And it's next to the original B6. So what's the difference?
Okay, well, this is the third anniversary, very nearly, of us starting ELAC in the US. And we started with the debut speaker. That's why it was called Debut.
Yeah, makes
and we felt it was about time to try and update it.
And refresh.
And so let me tell you what we've done. A lot.
It's completely different.
Yeah. So clearly the aspect ratio looks different. The visual aspects of the speaker looks different. Starting with the box being narrower and taller and a little deeper to maintain the same internal volume but make it look a little more elegant. Driven by what we've done with the Slim Unify. The changes in aspect ratio just made it look nicer. But it also allowed us to put the vent on the front. And why did we do that?
Yes, why?
Well, pretty much the most common question people call in about with the original B6 was how close can I put it to the wall? Because the vent is on the rear. Now, it's not so much that getting it close to the wall literally chokes off the action of the vent, but the vent is coupling closer to the wall more so than the main woofer, and so you get a change in performance, and it may be a bit bass heavy the closer to the wall you get. Putting it at the front gets around that. The vent and the bass driver are perfectly aligned being on the front, and you don't get such an issue with it being close to the wall. And we recognise that as an audiophile, I'll have it on stands out in the room. Most people who are buying the debut series are putting it much closer to the wall, unless it comes to the tower. Right? But for bookshelves, they really are almost literally bookshelves, or certainly on a credenza. So that's one difference. Now, when we go to look at the woofer, we can clearly see differences there. Still woven aramid fibre, but a different fibre, a different colour, clearly, a different dust cap. We were looking at the top end performance of the woofer, and that's affected by the type of the dust cap and how it's glued and where on the cone it's glued. So I spent a lot of time playing with that dust cap to optimise that top end response and make it even smoother. The other difference is the tweeter. You can't see it here, but behind the grill, when we looked at what we'd done with the original debut, then moving on up to the Unify and then to the Adante speaker, I've continually refined the tweeter. The Adante uses a wide roll surround. And so I looked at it and thought, can I get a version of that I can afford to incorporate into the debut? And that's what I did. So wide roll gives more radiating area closely coupled to the voice coil.
That's the edge of the...
That's the edge, which would normally just be a little roll surround to allow the dome to move.
Right.
But by making it bigger, it contributes more output at higher frequencies. And so you get actual more extended frequency response. Whereas this dome, it went out pretty flat to 20k, but then dropped off pretty rapidly above that. Here we extend out to 35k.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, and it also goes down lower because of the increase in total radiating area.
So what is the difference in crossover?
So here it was about 2.4, 2.5k from memory. Here it's closer to 2k. Don't quote the designer on that.
Okay.
Check the specs. But basically we've lowered the crossover. That gives better integration between the tweeter and the woofer. And talking of integration, the change in the dome and surround necessitated a different waveguide shape, whereas it was relatively deep with this one.
Practically a horn.
Well, a horn is technically a waveguide, right? A compression horn is different. A compression horn is a compression driver going into a horn, which is a waveguide. Here it's a direct radiator, but it's shallower because I needed that for this dome shape, but therefore it gives a wider dispersion. So off axis it holds its output up better than this one. So whereas with the original debut, the way I set it up was to face pretty much towards you. I recognise that a lot of people actually don't do that in a home situation. Sorry? Toe in, right, yes. Okay. So they'll often face it almost straight down the room. Right. So I wanted to make sure it was wide enough dispersion to cope with that. Okay. And then also put a brace in, a side-to-side brace in the cabinet to help stiffen and control some of the cabinet resonances.
Rap on it with your knuckles, it's not, sounds like a better box.
Right, yes. So basically everything's changed.
Yeah, it's all new.
And so that launches.
The price is?
The price has gone up $20. So for there's a B5.2 and a B6.2. So that's each of them have gone up $20. So the B6.2 is now $299, $299.98, I guess, to be accurate. In the range, we have the two bookshelves, 5.2, 6.2. We have two towers, the F5.2, F6.2. And just as in the originals, the towers have got three woofers, either 5-inch or 6-inch woofers, and are three-way systems because of the way that I'd done the crossover in there. We have two centre channels now. We have a 5-inch bass centre channel and a 6-inch bass centre channel, which we didn't have before.
That's a big box.
That's a big box, made bigger or at least wider by the fact that for both of them, the vents are on the front. You know, when we talk about should the vents be at the front or the back, you can argue one way or another, perhaps for room loading with a bookshelf, but most times the centre channel, or very often, is put into a credenza.
Right,
and if the vents are in the back, forget it. They're not going to do anything for you. So they're now on the front. A new subwoofer, based on the S10 EQ, but now with added capabilities. You know, we've been monitoring feedback that people give us. You know, there's feedback as a designer. Once you design something, what would you do to improve it? But there's also the questions you get from people. And the questions with the subwoofer is, with all this room EQ that we do operated from the phone, can you control two subwoofers together? And the answer was no. Well, the answer now is yes.
That's good.
We've got a new app, and you can control and EQ them separately and gang them together to adjust the volume of the subwoofer. So that's a huge improvement. Along with, not only does it do the automated EQ, but it's now got 6 bands of parametric EQ built in there. So you can fiddle even more, versus one, yes. So substantial changes across the range. And with the idea of just further improving the capability of the speaker.
Thanks. I think you hit all the points there. So thanks for visiting me in New York City.
Always a pleasure.
See you next
time.
time.
New York, that is.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Andrew. This is Steve Guttenberg, the Audiophiliac, signing off with Andrew Jones. See you next time. Bye-bye.